Hey everybody, welcome back to 608 Fab. Today we are going to play with the Bridgeport a little bit. So I am far from an expert machinist. The father-in-law is amazing, right? But I'm good at doing the simple stuff, and those are the little easy projects I like to play with. I've got to make some axles up at the day job, and we build axles up there. And this is a weird one-off that you can't really buy the pieces and parts to make this, so we've always had to get a little creative. And what we run into is the square stock spindle we can buy to go into 2x1/4 wall square tube needs to be ground down. So we've always just ground these down until they fit inside. And sometimes when we order the tubing, they slide right in, but because all this tubing is mass produced and things change, suppliers change, etc., the inside radius of the corners here don't match the inside radius or the outside radius of the square stock spindle that we can buy on the aftermarket. And then because this isn't DOM, there's no need for DOM, we've always had to fight with the weld on the inside. And you could go in and grind the weld out with a little finger sander or something like that, or a burr bit, or you can just cut a slot down the center of one side of this spindle, and either way it works just fine. So I've got 40 feet of this tubing up at the shop at work, and all the spindles on this batch of tubing, all the spindles we own on the parts shelf don't fit in to this tubing. So we've been there before. It is what it is. It's no surprise. But rather than sitting there making a mess, grinding it down, I figured I'd bring the spindles here to the shop at home and mill off the corners so they fit in, mill a slot in. I think I can do these in a matter of a couple minutes rather than like 15 minutes with the flap disc on a grinder. So I'm going to get this all set up and start making some chips. I always like to do a shallow cut first pass, and that'll tell me if that piece is in there straight without going through all the indicating. That first 10,000ths pass, it was getting a wider cut at the far end of it. Had some chips stacked up underneath it. I love that power feed. Alright, so this is going to be done in 3 total setups, right? Alright, so setup number 1 has just been completed on both spindles here, okay? Which is taking 2 edges off. And I can do 2 edges because it sits on this one while I milled that one, sits on this original corner when I milled that one. Now, because I am lower, because it's now going to sit on this machined edge, I'm going to be lower. So that's going to require a second setup on the bed height of the table, and then I can run both passes on the second 2 corners. This is the last pass of cutting all 8 corners off of both spindles, or 4 corners off of 2 spindles. This machine has got way more power than I'm using, just because my inexperience everything is pretty shallow passes. I don't get very aggressive with this thing. I come in here, father-in-law's working on it. Things are just hogging. Machine is making noise. If he was here, I'd be pushing this thing a lot harder. But I'd also have him looking over my shoulder, making sure I'm not going to wrap this spindle around my head or something stupid. So, yeah. Finish this up, show you what I'm going to do on the relief cut for the weld that's inside that tube. Alright, so now I've got this set up with a smaller end mill, and I am making a pass right down the center of this unmachined surface. I am making a stop 5/8 of an inch out from the back side of the seal surface because I always leave that section exposed when I'm welding these up. So that way my milled area is not outside of my weld when I slide these into tube and weld them up at work. Again, running this thing super light, not pushing anything too hard, just getting the job done. Got my digital readout set up so I can make a perfect stop at the end every time. Speed this thing up a little bit on travel speed. Because right now it's out for a Sunday drive. Let's see how that fits. Oh Nelly, we got burr inside that. Let me clean up a couple of burrs inside this so it slip fits better. I'll be right back. All right, kids. I'm a little frustrated, but I got the project done. So first thing I'm going to say is this is my own doing. But always check your parts before you spend time on the mill making them work. So this isn't a lost cause. I'll ultimately need what I made anyhow. But this spindle here is 1 1/16" bearing with a large ID seal. This part here is a 1-inch spindle with a small ID seal. Ultimately, we make the same axles out of the same tube, so this isn't that big of a deal to have cut this down because I'll have to cut a bunch more of these down too. But I won't be able to, well, I'll be able to make the axle I need to make tomorrow at work on Monday, but I'll just have to do it the old-fashioned way with the grinder, which isn't that big of a deal. We've been doing it for 16 years that way, and the only reason I'm even doing this here at my shop is because it's cleaner to use the mill. You're not sucking a bunch of grinding dust. Two, it is, I'm going to say, more professional. Not that you'll ever see this because it's going to be welded deep into a piece of 2x2 steel tube. But even when, you know, pride, even when you can't see what you've done, is nice to, you know what you have hiding inside that axle tube, or, you know, whatever you're making in your shop. But, you know, we order these in mass quantities, whether they ship me one wrong or it was part numbered wrong. They got matching part numbers on them. Who knows? But all in, I got to make another 1/16" version. I'll just do like that with the grinder at home or at the shop tomorrow. And then the large or the small one, I'll just bring some more small ones home, and I gotta probably make, just for, you know, to have them on the shelf, I gotta make now 3 more of these probably, and I'll probably make another 6-pack of these guys. We don't make a lot of these axles, but we do enough of them that we need to have this stuff sitting on the shelf. And we pretty much build axles on demand up at work to save people's days and, you know, keep the shop rolling and things like that. We don't order any spring axles anymore up there. We make anything 7K and smaller at in-house. But yeah, this just slowed the job down for me tomorrow is really all it did. Rather than go in there, slap this thing together, burn it together, and slam some hubs on it. Now I gotta sit down and do a dirty job of grinding down some spindles. But you can see here, I've got a 50 thousandths groove cut that easily clears the weld in there. The weld's only like 25 thousandths tall, but I figure that's gonna vary. I also cut it a lot wider than it needs to be because sometimes that weld is off center. So that should cover pretty much any chunk of tube, or this should cover any chunk of tube that we bring in moving forward. Got the corners knocked off of it, so it has good clearance here. And then I did end up taking 5 thousandths off of 3 sides. And I could take, you know, a little less off if I needed to, but it gives a nice slip fit. And I know this tube is going to be imperfect moving forward throughout a stick of tube because, you know, it's just cheap quarter wall tube. So that's how I made this. You know, this is the kind of stuff I like doing up here at the shop. You know, I'm not shooting for ultra precision and things like that. I'm not good enough for that yet, nor will I probably ever be, because I'm not going to use the mill enough. Once we have a lathe in here, you know, again, I'm probably not going to use it enough either to be, you know, ultra precision like, you know, my father-in-law is and things like that. But, you know, it's going to be, you know, one-off stuff like this. You know, I need square peg to fit in a roundish hole, or you know, round hole to fit in a square hole, or round peg to fit in a square hole. Those are the jobs I like to do for, you know, the projects on the mill right now, learning how to make things work. So that's it for 608 Fab today. I guess we're 2 steps forward and kind of 1 step back because I'm short one of these still. But all in all, fun little Sunday project here. I'm going to get to cracking on the Jeep. I've got to pull apart the passenger side lockout. It's not unlocking, so I'm assuming something's broken there and it's all jammed up. So we're going to tear that thing apart here this afternoon. I was going to mow the yard, but it's raining. So as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do something cool in your garage, and we'll see you next time.